Scrappy Creations, where we sew the scraps of your life into beautiful creations. Today is our final. It's number 5 in the Freestyle Scrap Tote Bag series. I apologize that it took me 2 weeks to get you this video, but I did have it filmed. I lost it, so I had to remake it. All right, so this week's video concentrates on the zipper top of the tote bag. Now, many of you didn't choose, or some of you did not choose the zipper bag. You went with either an open, a Velcro, or a magnetic clasp. So those, I've already gone over those in previous videos. This one will concentrate on the zipper top. So as you can see, I didn't use scraps for this bag. That's okay. It doesn't all have to be scraps, right? So this video will not cover all the intricacies of making the straps and how to cut your pockets and things like that, because I've done this in previous videos. I'm going to link anything that I feel you need down below in the description box. So anything that I think you need will be there, as well as measurements that I used on this bag. Now, your bag may vary, but I'm going to give you the measurements that I used on this bag. And the zipper is reminiscent of the zipper style that I used in my Scrappy open wide zippered pouch tutorial, and that will also be linked below. So I want to thank you guys for watching this series. It has done very well with views. It shows me that you guys are really interested in making your own bags and learning techniques to make bags, because you might not be making a tote bag. Maybe you're making another style and you're just using one of the techniques. Now, this bag has something that the other ones do not. On the inside, it has this, which is to clip your keys onto so they don't fall down into the bottom of your bag where you can't ever find them when you need them. So all measurements will be below. I'm going to get started, and remember, you can do this. There's 5 videos, and I walk you step by step in all the other videos, step by step, to make your own tote bag. So let's see. If you've been waiting on the zipper top, this is your video, okay? Let's go do this. Okay, here we go. Let's take a look at what I'm working with today, which is basically the same pieces that we used on our other tote bags. This one is less scrappy since I am refilming this. These are 2 15-inch quilted panels, just plain and simple. I have 2 15-inch lining pieces. I chose to put pockets on each one of these. I have 2 quilted straps. Now, as I mentioned before, everything that you need to know to make any part of this that you don't see today is going to be linked in the description box below the video, because this is number 5 in the series. So I've gone over all of these things and how to make each part. So I don't think I should repeat myself here. But either way, these I always cut a little bit longer than what I want them, so I cut these at 36, quilted them, you know, sewed the strips down, and now they are cut to 34 inches. I have a piece of zipper by the yard. This is number 5. There is also a number 3, or a pre-packaged zipper. So if you were using something like this that came out of the package, or a number 3, the only difference for us is this one's a little more heavyweight, so I would tend to prefer the number 5, but I certainly have used number 3 before. So this brings us to our tabs. You're going to need a zipper tab for one end. If you're using the number 5 zipper tape, you want this to be 2 1/4 by 3 1/4. If you're using the prepackaged or number 3 zipper, you're going to want it to be 2 by 3. And all these measurements will be listed in the description box below the video. If using zipper by the yard, you will also need a corresponding zipper pull. If you choose to make the zipper, well, not the zipper, the stuck-on zipper, if you choose to make the key holder, for lack of a better term, you're going to need a small piece of fabric that's 1.5 by 5 or thereabouts. Really, it could be anything close to that. And you could use a D-ring, which I did not have a small enough D-ring. You know, the line part of it was too big. Or you could just simply use a key ring, like what I am going to use. Optionally, you could also choose to use some wash-away tape called Wonder Tape, zipper tape, whatever you want to call it, if you want help holding your zipper in place. I use a lighter and a zipper jig to put my zipper pull on. I'm going to show you quickly how to do that, but there again, I have a video about that. I actually have a short about how to do this. So now that we have everything that we need, we will get started. And the first thing I think we're going to start with is putting our zipper tab on our zipper. So it's the same whether you're using the number 5 or the number 3. As I said, the only thing that changes is the size of the piece of scrap that you're using. Okay, we're going to deal with our zipper. So the first thing we want to do is put on our zipper pull. You can use a zipper jig, which I have a tutorial for, or you can just put it on there by hand. But I do recommend cutting it even across and then taking a lighter. Now, when I tell you to take a lighter and use it, I don't mean for you to hold it there for very long. This actual zipper tape is the only part you want to melt, and that's very quickly, as you can see, just so that it doesn't fray. You don't want to melt your zipper itself. That would be working against yourself. We don't want to do that. Okay, so if you're using a zipper jig, I want you to put your zipper in this direction so it's pointed upward. See, make sure you can see that, just like that. And you put it in backwards facing, okay? And because that's backwards facing, you want this zipper itself backwards facing. Pull it apart and tuck one side in first. You'll hear a little click, and then you can work the other side in. And then, oops, one, the other side, if I were lefty, like this. Now, I've got a little bit of a bump there, but that's not gonna make any difference. All right, and I'm going to take this right off here again. I just wanted to show you how to put it on. All right, let's pretend you don't have one of those. We'll take this apart again. Then I would have the right side facing. But just as before, I'm going to tuck one side in and hold it there, and at an angle, put the other side in. And as soon as you get it in there a little bit, as long as you're not filming and having people watch you, you wiggle it a little bit. You're kind of going back and forth a little bit. Then if you can hold it like so, you just zip it like that, okay? Right, so you might have a little bit of a difference in length here. I want you to trim that off. I use a pair of old scissors. And again, I'm going to melt it a little bit so that it doesn't fray, okay? Just make sure that this end doesn't come off there. All right, remember your little piece? This is the long way, this is the narrow way. Fold it in half the narrow way. Make a little mark so you know where your center is. You can use a pin, you can use your iron. The right side of the fabric is up. The wrong side of the zipper is against the right side of the fabric. You're going to line this up with the center. Just like that. I know it's black on black, but I think you get my drift. Fold it over. And if you wanted to see this, I'm going to leave a link below to my Scrappy open wide zippered pouch tutorial, because I do the same exact thing. So if you want to see a more in-depth version, as well as I was using a pre-packaged zipper in that tutorial. Okay, folding in half. And again, I'm going to pin that. All right, now 3/4 of an inch from the edge of that, I want you to make a line. This is a sewing line. No one's going to see this when you're done, so don't worry about marking it. I want you to take this to your sewing machine and stitch across there. I use a fairly tight stitch. You can use a 2.0. That's what I'm going to use. I want you to back tack, sew across, back tack. Meet me right back here. Okay, now you should have the wrong side of your fabric showing, and you're just going to give that a little bit of a pull. I apologize for the outside noises. There's someone that keeps driving by, and they've got a loud engine, and I guess they think they're cool. I'm going to press that, just keeping it straight, like so. All right, now you've got extra fabric here, so you want to fold it down and just give it a try. Like, see where that ends. You want it to cover your fabric down here. You want it to cover the end. So when you think you're where you want to be, just fold that over and give it a little press. When I first started making the wide open zippered pouches and using this zipper method, I had a hard time with this. I wasn't new to sewing, but I was new to sewing bags, and I would have parts of this sticking out, and I could not figure a good way because pinning it alone didn't help. I'll tell you what worked for me was using some Wonder Tape, the double-sided tape. Okay, so I'm going to show you, even though I don't use this method any longer, I'm going to show you. You just need 2 little pieces. And I always use heat to apply this. I feel it works better that way. Because all it's going to do is hold everything in place while you sew. As soon as that's cooled off, you can peel that back. And it can be tricky sometimes to peel that back. Sometimes if you can't get it to start, you could use a pin in between there. Can't grab it here. I see it. I couldn't grab it. Okay, so again, put that right in place, right where I want it. I'm going to apply a little bit of heat. Keep your heat away from the actual zipper. You don't want to melt your zipper. That would not be good for anyone, would it? Okay. So I'm going to take this to the machine and I'm going to sew around in a square, okay? And again, be careful. You don't want your zipper to come off at this point. You could put a safety pin here, like this, just to be sure it doesn't come off there. that might be the best thing to do in this situation, because you don't want to have to take this end off again. All right, so stitch around. I'm going to use a 2.5 millimeter stitch length on mine, but you do whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, I am back. It is sewn. Okay, now I have, through the magic of film, I have prepared my front pieces. And I've prepared them by putting the straps on there and stitching them about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. And these are 7 inches apart, I believe, or 7.5. 7 inches apart, but these are 15-inch bags. Yours will depend on what your bag size is. But as I said, this tutorial is about the zipper. If you want to learn more about the straps, you need to go back to the previous videos. So right now, we're going to put this zipper on here as if these straps aren't here. We're just using this as one piece of fabric on each side, okay? And I did cut this so that my zipper was a little longer. I think I'm going to trim it just probably about 3/4 of an inch or so. We'll see. I like about 3 inches over the edge because that allows me to open my bag all the way up. Okay, now I trimmed my zipper. I might trim it just a hair more, I think. Then I'm going to use the lighter to melt that because I don't want that to fray. And again, you're not doing it to melt it, really, you're just quick. It doesn't even get hot, really. I might have pulled it away and just ruined what I did, but there. You're just squishing down, and it doesn't burn your finger. All right. This is the top. We're going to deal with one side at a time. And if you feel you need to, you can certainly use double-sided tape along here, but it isn't necessary. It may be if you're a beginner, but if you've done a few zippers and you feel confident, you don't need it, and you can get by without it. I did it for a long time. So, 1.25 inches from your end, I want you to place a pin, because that is where we stopped sewing, 1 1/4 inches from the edge, and that's our reminder. And you can open your zipper. You're going to lay it. You're going to fold this. You're going to fold this, move that dark background. You're going to fold it up in a triangle, so it looks like a triangle like this, okay? So lay it against there and place a pin to hold it, or a clip, whatever you're using, and fold that up, right? See, fold that right up. And again, I go over this in more depth on my open wide zippered pouch. So if you want more, you can watch that. The link will be below. So keeping the top of your zipper lined with the top of your tote bag. Say just keep it going right along there. Nothing to worry about. Everything's good. You can do this. Okay, and I'm going to come to this end. I'm going to pin it right there, because when we get here, I'm going to show you what we're going to do, but when we get here, we're going to move this out of the way, see, like this, so we won't be sewing on that, okay? Okay, now we're going to take one of your lining pieces. This is front side, or right side of your fabric, right side of your fabric. Put them right together, face to face. And then I want you to pin this in place. And all you're doing is lining it up with the top. Now, as you can see, I'm going to move the pins. I always do this. I'm not quite sure how I got in the habit of doing it this way. Pinning first and not pinning them together. But I guess in the beginning I was afraid of not having my zipper completely straight. So I would do it this way. But we do whatever works for us, right? So just hold this in place as best you can, keeping everything straight. Just like this. I usually come over to the end at this point just to make sure. Yeah, I guess it's going to be fine. Sometimes you get over there and you haven't got quite enough fabric on one or the other, and that can be a tricky situation too, can't it? Okay, I'm just going to hold this with a pin, because that blue pin right there that you can see, my little kitty cat pin, that is where we're going to stop sewing, okay? And again, if you feel you want to watch this in more depth, I would ask you to follow the link below the description box and watch the Scrappy wide open zippered pouch tutorial, because that has a lot more depth to it. So we're going to start stitching here. Now you're going to find, if you're using the number 5 zipper, that this is a little bit of a jump. Go slowly, use a wad of fabric or a hump jumper underneath your sewing foot if you need to. Use your zipper foot or a 1/4 inch foot and sew along. When you get here, leave your needle in the down position and just like this, pull this zipper out of the way so you're not sewing it, and then continue on and back tack, okay? Now I've sewn across, I stopped, left my needle in the down position, and I pulled the zipper out of the way. See how it's not caught up? As I said, I'll leave a link in the description box below, and it will take you exactly to the zipper part of that tutorial. Okay, we're not going to worry about top stitching just now. We will get to that. And again, be careful of your zipper. You don't want to pull that off the end. Now we're going to do the same thing here as we did before. It's just a little bulkier, that's all, but it's not a problem. We're going to take our time. And me, I'm going to pin it twice. Okay, so I'm going to take, now that I know this goes, see how our zipper is right side up? I'm putting right side of the fabric down against that zipper, and I'm going to flip the whole thing over, okay? And again, starting from the edge of the zipper, I'm going to hold that with a pin. If you want to go ahead and put your lining on now with this, you certainly can. I do them one at a time. I'll open that up. Leave myself some wiggle room. I'll put these at an angle so they're easier for me to remove. I'm going to put my lining in. And when I get toward, after this zipper part, I am going to skip over some of the parts of the bag because I have shown this bag multiple times. We've made different tote bags, so I have shown how to box the corners and turn them right side out and do all that so many times. But I will show you this. It will probably be in fast forward mode, more than likely. Okay, again, 1 1/4 inches from the end, I'm going to place a pin. I don't want to sew past that mark. So there goes my little kitty cat pin. Okay, and I'm going to check and make sure my pockets are open to the top and not going the wrong way. Right side to right side, and pin this in place. Just like this. And we do have the added thickness of the handles, but I don't find that that really gets in my way much at all. It is a little bit thicker, but it doesn't bother me. Just making sure that your zipper, your lining, and your front are all even up here. That's all. Come down this way, and I always check. Just like that. And you know what I did? I don't edit out my mistakes. You know what I did? I pinned it from the wrong side because I have to stop sewing on this end. So I'm going to move all these pins. Actually, I made 2 mistakes, didn't I? I didn't fold that end up. Right there. I need to fold that up, don't I? I bet there was at least one of you out there who was shouting, "Marie, stop!" Right? I have faith in you guys. I know you were. Someone was out there trying to correct me. I just know it. I always said if I make mistakes, I leave them in because I am human. Believe me, I make my fair share of mistakes. But I do like to leave them in only because if there's something that, you know, is kind of tricky to fix, at least you learn how I do it. Not that mine is always the right way, but it's one way. Okay. So I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine. Going to back tack, sew along here, and when I get here I'm going to stop and again move my zipper out of the way, so I'm only sewing through the 2 layers of fabric. Okay, it is all sewn across. I will flip it out. You might have to do some untwisting or twisting depending on how it is. Let me see. I think I got it. Just be careful. Hold your hand down when you're checking. You don't want to catch your fabric because we haven't top stitched this yet, but that comes later. Okay, everything looks good. This is only puckered because I have safety pins here in holding the strap to that. Okay. So you want to make sure that your bag is open at least halfway, if not more. Take this flap of zipper, fold it in and pin it out of the way. You don't want this to be caught in your seam allowance. That would be terrible, and you would have to take out your seam ripper. And nobody wants to do that, right? Okay, we're going to set that aside for a moment. Now, this is one of the optional parts of this bag. but I wanted to show you this. Now, this is just a small piece of fabric. I'm actually going to be trimming this. Now you could clip a D-ring on here or a key ring, and the thought behind this is that with a lobster clasp, you could clip your keys onto this, and this would sit inside the bag. So I don't want to burn it with the iron. It would sit inside the bag like this, so that you clip your keys on here and they're not down inside your bag where you can't find them all the time. Okay? So this is what we're working on now, is just this little tab, and it is simple as can be. So you want to strip at least 5 inches long and 1.5 inches wide. And it's just as easy as this. Fold it in half and press. Open that up and fold both sides towards the middle. Crease. Fold that crease. Match your edges together. And press it again, and I always press it from both sides. And then you're going to stitch along the edge, which is what I've done here. Okay? Now I didn't use any interfacing in this. I didn't feel that it needed it. If you want to add some, you certainly could, but remember, it will add to your bulk. Okay. Now figure out where you want this. For me, if my zipper opens this way, going to the right, personally, I think I want this here. And I want it to be approximately even with the top of my pocket. Now, there are 2 ways I could go with this. I could put this together and overlap it, or I can go like this, which is what I think I'm going to do. Let me bring this over a little bit. Kind of like this. Okay, so decide how far in from the edge. And remember, you can't get this right up here into your seam allowance. You've got to give yourself a little bit of space, but I think this is how mine's going to go. I'm going to use 2 pins. And I think what I'm going to do before I even sew my bag together is I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to stitch about 1/8 of an inch from the edge, just to hold that in place, so that then I don't have to use the pins any longer. The other thing I was just thinking about is this. I think first I'm going to take some stitches right here so that this stays stable. So I'm going to do both of those things, and then I will be right back here to show you what's next. That is all sewn, and I'm going to trim it. I am going to leave a little bit. I don't want to trim it real short, personally. Couldn't even tell you why, but I'm leaving about 1/2 inch. All right, so remember, our zipper is open. I've got mine about 3/4 of the way. I have the end pinned out of the way. The only other thing I'm going to do is pin the bottom. See the strap? My strap is a little bit longer than some might be. So I'm going to hold that up out of the way. I don't want it to be caught in my lower seam. I had the other ones, these ones that I'm just taking out, they were holding my straps completely straight while I sewed that top. I find that they go in better that way, I feel. Or they stay straighter, I guess I should say. All right, but either way, just need this to stay in place. Okay, now that you have your bag all sewn, for the most part, we have a few little things to finish up. Just make sure you poke your corners out nicely. Right, now we need to finish up. So what we need to do is top stitch. But before we top stitch, we're going to sew our opening. I'm going to do mine on the sewing machine. You can do it by hand, whichever way you choose. But I always take a little bit of a crease, fold it 1/4 of an inch. Generally I use the iron for this, but I have it put away and I'm not going to dig it back out. Gonna mark where I begin and end, as well as pin it along the way. Then I'll take it over to the sewing machine and I'll use my zipper foot so I can get very close to this edge. And as I said, you could sew it by hand if you want to. That's totally up to you. And there's my beginning. All right, I'm going to stitch this, then I'll come back and show you how I'm going to go about top stitching. All right, I have closed up my opening. So now all that's left is top stitching. And I always wiggle my fingers here, pressing it downward to make sure that everything is straight. And since we have our straps to deal with, you want to make sure that they are up, pointing upward. You don't want to stitch them down. And this just kind of holds everything in place. You could press it if you wanted to with an iron. And I'm going to stitch very close to this edge, probably within 1/8 of an inch. The edge of my outer, this top piece here. And I always have to remove the side of my sewing machine, the side arm, bed, whatever it's called, so that I can fit this on. I'm going to use probably a 3.0 millimeter stitch length going around. Right, so start on one corner. I usually start underneath here, doesn't probably matter, and stitch around. It is finished. So I did sew about 1/4 of an inch down from the top, and when I went over the straps, I sewed across, back, and then across on each one, just to give them a little bit more strength. So I'm happy with the way my bag turned out. I think it's cute. I've loved this fabric since I found it. It's all about friendship. But I hope that you enjoyed this video. I thank you so much for staying tuned and watching it, maybe following along with me. This is the final in the bag series, and I had to refilm this because I actually had this filmed and lost it before it was able to be uploaded. So I appreciate your patience waiting for video number 5 in this series. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I love spending time with you. And remember, be kind out there. The world needs more of that. I'll see you next time right here at Marie's Scrappy Creations. Bye-bye.